My name is Renato Rampolla. I'm a photographer. I take pictures of homeless people, and the project that I've just done is called Dignity, the Light Within. I go to different cities around the country. I take my camera and I walk the neighborhoods, I walk the cities, and I take pictures of things that I think are interesting. Colors, textures, different people, candid shots, street photography. But I also will inevitably run into people that live on the street. And rather than just pass them by, I talk with them. I never take candid shots of them, but I talk with them. I learn their stories. I share with them. Sometimes I don't get too inquisitive. I just let them talk and we talk. Sometimes we talk about nothing. And just the fact that it's not a patronizing conversation, it's one-to-one talking, it shows a lot of respect for them. And then my process as far as my lens, if they want me to take the picture, I get in close. By that point, they're already very comfortable with me and they trust me. And I put my lens probably 11 inches from their face, and I get a very close up because I'm really looking for their humanity, not their circumstance. These portraits are made across the country in different cities, but whenever I have the opportunity to take a picture of somebody locally where I live in Tampa, I try to maintain that relationship. For instance, this one is Mario. We've been friends for 3 years, good friends. We call each other every 2 weeks. When I met him, he had long hair, the beard was even longer, and he lived on the sidewalk, and he had his whole furniture, not really furniture, but just yard furniture he collected and set up beer. He'd get whatever food he had, sausages, and he'd have it, and he'd just eat there. And then he slept in a parking lot, in between a parking lot and a 6-foot fence in the bushes every night. And this was his life. He loved it. What got him motivated to leave is all the drugs and the prostitution that was around him. He was really upset about that. It was a rough area. So I would go pretty much every week and see him. This was about 3 years ago. And we would go walking, and he had this little pickup stick that he would pick up tin cans with. And he'd save tin cans and take them and get them recycled and get money. So we would walk in all these areas, and he said, remember, this is a 72-year-old man, very frail. I have to walk slow because he doesn't walk very fast. And he goes, I'm your bodyguard. Nobody will mess with you in these areas. And that was true. He was my street credit because when everybody saw me with Mario, everybody liked Mario. And he would just say, hey, can he take your picture? And they would do it if pretty much 9 times out of 10 if Mario asked. So, and then we'd talk and he'd introduce me to people, and it was a good time. But finally he was able to move out, and he lives in a trailer in the country right now. So over in Brooksville. So he's doing much better than he was. So I met Apollo and his wife. This is Apollo. And he was sitting on a sidewalk, and they were both sitting on a sidewalk next to a wall, and they were both pretty high. But we talked for about an hour. Apollo and I did. The wife just listened, and he said a lot of different things I don't want to go into, but basically the takeaway I remember, he said, I used to have money, I used to be somebody. My inspiration in doing this project was probably a tribute to my parents. My mother was a social worker and my father was a painter. So my father passed away when I was 11. He was an artist. My mother became a social worker. It was just me and her, and we were kind of at odds in a friendly way. She raised me, but she basically, I was much less empathetic than she was to people. And this didn't kick in for a while in my life. So one thing I want to point out is the reason I started this, to be honest with you, I was curious. And I've always told my mom, these guys are panhandling, they should get a job. They're healthy, look at them. And she said, you just don't understand what they've been through. And I'm saying, I understand they're not trying, and we just never, until recently, I say a few years back, it just didn't click. So this guy, Timothy, he was one of the first people that were homeless, that I know was homeless, that I took a picture of. And I stopped, and it was late in the afternoon. It was a very hot summer afternoon. And he was taking a break from panhandling, and he was under an overpass. So I went out and got a couple bottled waters that I had in the back of the truck and brought it to him, because he had a big dog with him. And I thought, well, maybe he can give one to the dog and one for him. And he ended up basically sharing the one with the dog, and then he kept the other one for later. So we talked a long time, and I was saying, why are you homeless? I mean, you're healthy, you know? And he said, well, I used to do construction, but I can't get a job without a permanent address. And I can't get a permanent address without going to a shelter, and the shelter won't let me take Coco, his dog. So that was what he's telling me. But the whole time he's talking to me, he's looking like this. He's looking around, like there's nobody. It was just me and him. There's nobody there. And he's looking around. I'm wondering, what is he afraid of, or what's he thinking? And I never really knew. But then I said, hey, I got a camera in the car. Would you let me take your portrait? And he goes, sure. So I took a couple pictures, and he liked it. He goes, and I said something like, he had long hair, and you had this kind of Jesus look about you, you know, and that's what made me stop and, you know, wanted to ask you some questions. And he goes like this. He's doing all these different poses, and he's getting into it. We actually had a good time. For 20 minutes of his miserable life, at what he was going through right then, he had some fun. And so it was nice. We said goodbye and so forth. So if they're in Tampa, and if I have the opportunity, I go back and give them a print, or a couple prints, like little 4x6 prints they can carry around. And I did find him exactly a week later. He was about a mile away with Coco on the same road walking. I pulled over way ahead of him so he could walk up to me, and I talked to him, and I said, look what I got for you. And he looked at it and he goes, where did you get this? I said, you don't remember? He said, well, you know, we talked. It was only a week ago Monday, and we talked. And he was trying to be polite and trying to pretend like he remembered, but he didn't remember me. And he was very drunk. And I realized what he didn't really want to get into was the fact he had a drinking problem. So I met Emma. She was panhandling. She had a hoodie, a whole jogging outfit on it was like 3 or 4 sizes way too big for her. She was probably 80 or 90 pounds, very skinny. And we talked a little bit, and I had a NutriBar I gave her, and I gave her a water, and we just talked about a few things. And I said, well, why are you here and so forth? She goes, well, the doctor said I had 7 months to live. Now, keep in mind, this is not somebody that sound hardened on the streets. She was somebody that you could have just basically made your deposit at the bank the day before. She's very articulate. And she said her doctors had told her she had 7 months to live. And I said, well, why aren't you in hospice? And she goes, well, I was in a shelter once, and 2 guys tried to rape me, and I got a screwdriver stuck in my leg trying to get away. And I said, well, what are you going to do? Where do you live? And she goes, I live in the woods. And she was very proud of that. I was walking through a park in Savannah, and I saw this man sitting on a bench. He had one of these African wicker baskets where people would put money in. And there was no sign or anything like that. He was just looking straight ahead. So I sat next to him on the bench, plenty of space in between us. And I just sat like I was resting. And I said, you know, what do you think about the day, or something like that? You think it's going to rain or something, just small talk. And he kind of really didn't say anything. So I thought, well, you know, I better leave because I'm hampering his style. Maybe I'm stopping him from being able to get money. And then all of a sudden, he kind of looked at me, he turned his head like this. You're the highlight of my day. Very monotone like that. And I thought, was he being sarcastic or what? He goes, and then he started talking. I said, what do you mean? And he goes, well, most people, they throw $1 in the basket and they feel good about themselves for the day. And I'm basically a prop to them. You're actually asking my name and you're talking to me. I appreciate that. As you walk through the exhibit, read the stories. keep in mind that everybody you look at could be somebody's brother or sister or father or mother or son or daughter.